been a while since I filmed. Can you tell? Hey good looking, and welcome back to this month's BYOP. Can't believe we're already here again. It seems like just a week ago we were doing the other palette, and already it's time to put those singles up and get out this month's collaboration, which is Pantone's Viva Magenta. And so this month we are creating a palette inspired by the Pantone Color of the Year 2023, Viva Magenta. I came up with these 10 shadows right here to complement and then also feature the Viva Magenta vibe. I will say, I don't own a lot of this. It's kind of a pink, it's an orchid, it's a deep pink, a plummy purple. It's really actually not as easy to find these types of shades as one would think, and to stay within the confines of one particular color. I did add a couple of shades here that you guys will see that will make nice matte transitions and so forth, but we'll get into that in just a few minutes. As always, I'm collaborating with Kelly Rettenberger from Keep Beauty Real and Cara from Beauty and the Frizz. We also have Lock Maiden, who joins us typically every month, so go and check out their videos. I'm going to link them down below. And yeah, let's get into it. But first, I always forget to do my homework, and that is next month's theme is a palette that cheers us up. A pick-me-up palette, if you will. And that is your homework, is to find 10 single eyeshadows from your collection that you are inspired as a pick-me-up. Usually the time period between February and at the end of March, it can be very dull and dreary, rain inspired a lot of times as we start to move into the spring months, where we're going to have a lot of growth and spring. So a lot of times that brings you know, rain, and sometimes we get those dreary days and we feel a little dreary ourselves. So this is going to be a pick-me-up palette that we'll be featuring next. So don't forget, that's your homework. Let me know in the comments down below which eyeshadows you feel fit the Viva Magenta vibe. I've got a lot here from different brands. I'm featuring Devinah, Looxi Beauty, Sydney Grace. Yeah, I think that's it. Okay, let's go ahead and get started. I'm just going to swatch on my arms today, guys. I'm getting over feeling under the weather and getting strep throat, and the family's been really ill, so I've kind of had to take a step back to recharge and get everybody back up to health. So you'll have to excuse some of the posts. Probably not going to be on a weekly basis, and I hope to get back to live streaming. So if that's content that you're interested in, as always, make sure that you subscribe down below. Let's go ahead and start off with Looxi Beauty's Boss. This is, in my opinion, one of the most Viva Magenta shades. It does trend a little bit on the more orchid side, but I think it's a darkened pink. Viva Magenta is actually a red based, has a lot of carmine in it when they described it online, so not so much purple, more on the red side. And I really had to kind of rein that in because I like to go towards the purple side because that's my preference. So, and I wanted to find a little bit of variety. So there's going to be some more purple leaning ones, but there's also going to be maybe some more pink leaning ones. And then there will be inspirational shades where, like, you know, dual chromes, that kind of thing. So Ultraviolet, again, this is going to be the more purple leaning shade. This is also by Looxi Beauty. And it is kind of like a duochrome vibe. It does provide somewhat of a sheer application, and the magenta portion comes in the base more than it does on the actual shine of the shadow. Next up, from Cliondah, their duochrome shadow series, I have the shade Cinnabar. It is more of a Viva Magenta inspired shade. This is a duochrome that's got quite a bit of purple, but I think that it really looks good with the rest of this palette, first off. And second off, it does bring some magenta vibes. Again, it's more of a base shadow. It really doesn't lean heavily into the magenta. It leans a little bit more on that purple side, but it is very similar to this one, so I'm not really sure when you're making a magenta themed palette how much is appropriate to put for like a matte. Like when monochromatic palettes, there's only so many reds you can put before you're kind of repeating yourself. So I think that's kind of the scenario here. So Cinnabar is pretty close to Looxi Beauty's. Definitely not the same in formulation at all. Like one is almost sheer, the other one is quite more opaque, less, the Cliondah shade is almost like a satin shimmer. We'll move on, and this is, and I knew this was going to happen. This is one of the Sydney Gray shadows from the Temptalia collection. Oh, I'll just leave it here. That's the shade. Let me swatch it for you now. I was going to write it down. I do know one or two of the other shades, so. Again, it mimics this shade up here. They're all going to be very similar. It's kind of like a monochromatic feeling type palette. I really wanted to use these shades because I don't typically use a lot of pink, and a carmine based pink or a deepened red pink isn't typically what I would reach for, but I do like the idea of using it. So giving myself kind of that assignment helps carry that out to fruition. Otherwise it would just be like, yeah, let me just admire these shadows. From Devinah, I have the shade Magellanic, Magellanic, which I don't know if that is a spin-off of a magenta, so I did feature it. You can see the magenta here, and as we go ahead and get into the swatch, you'll see that there is quite a nice shift. It's pretty hard to see actually, because when you have studio lighting that's supposed to be like plainer is all that comes to mind, but basically casting no shadows, which is why you look seamless and poreless and so like a wrinkle free on camera. It's really difficult. It's really difficult to see the duochrome vibe, or even I think this is considered a multichrome vibe. So let's go ahead and try to get a little more bend, and then maybe we can see. There you go. See that golden shift? It's very beautiful. In person, if you've ever seen it, it's extremely, extremely beautiful. Devinah does have excellent swatches on their website, so make sure you check those out. I typically do like to put that B-roll in. Normally I would, but this month it just crept up on me and we had to get the assignment done. So Sydney Grace's Save the Dance is probably the most complementary shadow to the magenta. It's the one that is the most interpretive of this Pantone. It's, you know, an icy lavender magenta, if you will. It's not really, it's more of something that's going to complement the rest of it. Otherwise, we would have ended up probably with another 4 or 5 magenta shades that I would have found in different formulas. And I mean, as fun as that seems, we want a little bit of variability. So I grabbed this. I thought it was very complimentary. It's kind of would make a nice shade for a halo eye. It's got a lot of shimmer to it. You know Sydney Grace's formula. It's amazing. I also grabbed another shade from, I think this might be from the Quintessence palette. And it's also, it'll be put right here because I don't remember off the top of my head. But I feel like this has a pink base or undertone to it. So I felt like that would be extremely complimentary, and you can use that as a transitional shade for these others. And we'll use that here in just a moment. As you can kind of see, it's a pink-based tan. Trends mauve-y. I mean, looks fairly mauve-y. So I would say it's more cool toned. You know, actually, I think in the pan it looks neutral. On me, it looks more cool toned, but I think it'd probably still say it was neutral. Grabbing another, again, complementary shade. I'm thinking like for a halo or a spotlight eye, or something to highlight the inner corner underneath the brow bone, is again from Sydney Grace Temptalia Collection palettes, and I'll give you guys the name down below Here's the swatch. Tell me that that doesn't just like look good. I think it really fits the vibe. I like it. And it's so incredibly simple. So you can, you know, use it with some of these multis and duochromes and get a nice pretty look that isn't too overly committed to the magenta. So on days that I may not want to commit to the magenta, I can use that shade. This I do know is Phosphenes. It is from the, I think it's Radiance Reflection palette. I mean, this is probably my favorite from the Temptalia Cine Grace palette, is the Phosphenes. It's similar to Wondrous Night. It's also somewhat similar to Tiara. I'm going to go ahead and link the video up here. I do that every time. I'm like, oh yeah, I got it right. No, I'm going to link the video for you guys in the eye that compares all of the Cine Grace eyeshadows that I have to any of the shadows that look like they might be similar in the Cine Grace Temptalia collection. So you can go take a look at that if you are interested in seeing, you know, what you might already have in your singles, that and then you wouldn't have to necessarily go out and buy the palette. But these, most of these are available as singles on her web. Not most, but some. We'll say some. It is a plummy mauve that very well complements a magenta eyeshadow. Again, you know, using something like this straight on the lid for somebody who's not really a pink lover, this gives you enough of variation that you could use this maybe like on the outside or all over the lid and then put this over the top, or even putting something like this over the top. It's a way to use but not commit to the actual color. Lastly, I wanted to add a shade that is, it's plummy in undertone, but it has a magenta feel to it. Plummet by Cine Grace is a nice deepening shade, and that's all it's really used for. It's not an actual magenta, but it helps to carry out the wishes of this palette. We've seen Plummet on this channel so many times. It's gorgeous. It's wonderful. I love it. It is featured in my Sunset Stripped palette dupe using all Cine Grace shades. It's very wonderful. It's really good to use. Let's go ahead and get some of these on the eyes. I'm starting out with that Cine Grace shade, that matte Cine Grace shade, and I'm just tapping in pretty heavily. I want to bring quite a bit of this shade here throughout the crease, and I'm going to kind of circle it, and I'm just going to bring it up and around there and kind of create this shadow that kind of extends up into the brow area up here close to the nose ridge. And I think maybe I could even just add this shade all the way down over the lid and go that route, because we've done so many, well, this is the transition, this deepens, and then we put on a little shimmer. I do kind of want things to be a little bit different on this channel from time to time. Then just grabbing and extending down on the lower lash line to add a little bit more contour. It's a really nice contour color. It's very beautiful. Let's do it. Let's go ahead and extend this down to and over the lid. I will keep this part in here just a little bit bare, so we keep it a little brightened. Brightened by darkening this area, but I am going to add just a little bit in and around that area. Wonderful. I actually quite like this. And then with a more precise brush, but not, I mean, it's like a pinch ferrule blender. I did wash all of my brushes, so a bunch of them are drying just because of, you know, being sick and everything. I'm going to go ahead and dip into Looxi Beauty's Boss. I think it's not Moss, it's Boss. It's Boss. Sorry. It's been a while since I filmed. Can you tell? Just packing this kind of all over and extending outward. This is the magenta that I, think of when I think of, Pantone. It looks like it's going on just like a dream. Pinks generally are really easy to work with. They just apply so well. And I hate that I don't like them, but I just don't really think that they accentuate my eye color that well. Not like orange, yellow, and then like the neutral browns or warm tone browns. I love, like, I'm always going to be a neutral lover, like through and through. It's probably never going to change. Just so you know, there's going to be a lot of neutral. If you're new to the channel, let me know, what would you want to see as Pantone's 2024 color? It's not that soon. It's just right around the corner. I mean, I feel like I've already blinked and it's February. And normally it's like, oh, we still have more January left. But now I'm like, it's almost March. It's almost March. You know what? Let's go ahead and extend this down. I don't know how I blended it out so well on the other eye. Oh yeah, that's nice. Should I just extend it downward? I think I will, but I'll use this more defined one. Just as like, keeping it a little bit tighter, I guess. Yeah, it's beautiful. Really, really pretty. I mean, I do like this, but I don't feel comfortable wearing it. I don't know why. I think sometimes it's because, like, if I didn't get enough sleep last night, I have, like, redness in my eyes. Then you see this, like, pink. I get nervous. People think I have conjunctivitis or something like that. So I'm just keeping my eyes open and going ahead and blending just a little bit around this upper part of my crease, just to make sure that when I open my eyes, you still see a lot of that pink. But it is kind of meshed in with that mauve-y tone. So I feel like it's a little bit more wearable. It's like a nice, soft, subtle compromise that we can have here. Let's go in with one of these duochromes because I just think that they're just so beautiful. So it's either going to be Devinah or it's going to be Looxi's. I think those are the only two that I have. And really Looxi just doesn't, I mean, Devinah just really kind of outshines the master in this. I think let's go ahead and add the Devinah. I am going to add some glitter glue. So we've got some Anastasia here, glitter adhesive. And I never realized this before, but I think this was always designed to, you take it out and you literally paint this on your eyelid. And maybe, tell me if I'm wrong, leave a comment down below. If I'm using this wrong, just let me know. But I've always put it on the back of my hand and then taken it and transferred it with like a MAC 242. And it was like, it would always lift up product. So when I do it like this, it doesn't lift up that product. I'm going to paint a little off because I don't want to use too much. I would use my finger normally, but I think for this particular shade, it does have enough of like a base, not a dark base, but a base. Let's just call it that, okay? It is Magellanic, so I will pick it up with this MAC brush and pat it on there. I almost want like, yeah, just an iridescent kind of. What I'd like is when you see it on a certain angle, it to be that gold. And then when you get over here, it looks more pink because it's over a pink base. I don't know if that's going to happen or not, though. Let's find out. Maybe this was a job for the Looxi shade. Okay, and then I'm going to take my finger and like blend it. Like, this was like a very, very beautiful Valentine's Day look. Should I try it on the other side? I'm just too nervous. Yeah, let's just stay with the 242 and bring it in. Again, heavily applying it on the Boss shade by Looxi, that matte Boss. And then just as I'm kind of done and there's only like teeny tiny flecks, I'm just coming in inward. and then bringing it up and around so that it's just really kind of like a light dusting on the rest of the eye. I like it. Let's not stop there. Let's add Phosphenes from Sydney Grace's Temptalia collection. Let's add that to the inner portion. See what we got here. Ooh, yeah, and then bringing it up and around. There we go. I don't want too much. Just like a little bit. And it's the accentuating of the magenta, but if you have all magenta on the eyelids, it almost looks monochromatic and it almost looks like you're just using one shadow. And I want it to seem like there's some depth and variation so that we can see like, oh yeah, there was more than just one shadow used. And so in order to do that, you do actually have to use complementary shades. I feel, sorry if the volume's, I always put it right in front of the microphone and it sounds muffled half the time. And there's nothing I can do post-production for that. Get it together. Editing Kendra is going to be so mad if she has to edit that because it's extremely difficult to work with. That is it. You know what? I think I'll keep things simple and just add another coat of mascara on the lids. For that, I'll use my Merit. And I should probably invest in a more clumpy, glumpy, spidery mascara, but that's okay. Today, we will just add that. This is the completed look. If you haven't already checked out Lux, Keep Beauty Real, and Beauty in the Frizzes videos, go check them out. Go see what they have in their stash. They didn't go out and buy any of this stuff. They just using what they got. Eyeshadows, single eyeshadow collection. See what they've got. See their little take on a palette for Pantone's 2023 Color of the Year, Viva Magenta. Thanks so much for watching, guys. Can't wait to see you guys in the next video. Bye.